All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to my channel. Welcome to another video. And in this video, we're going to be keeping with the momentum of the previous four. I will go ahead and right out the gate say that if you did not find yourself to my previous video on step 4, if you did not watch it, go back, watch it. Okay. Step 4 is a requirement before moving on to step 5. So, if you haven't watched it, I know it's long. I know it's over 40 minutes. And that's kind of the point. If you don't have enough time to sit there and watch it, even in like 10-minute bursts, then, I mean, what's the point of moving forward? Got to have courage to sit down and focus your attention on something for a little while. So with that being said, step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Or, in the personal perspective, admitted to God, to myself, and to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. Now, the principle behind this step is integrity, and ultimately, that word integrity is the same as integrated, integral, right? So, the key point here is that things are one, so it's oneness, wholeness, unity. Things are being brought back to a state of oneness or wholeness, at least to an extent. Now, this is the same concept expressed behind the Catholic confession or any other sort of church confession, the removal of the weight of one's sins off of their conscience, right? Because the emotional muck that we have been discussing will get in the way of one's conscience from being able to effectively communicate to them. They will end up losing connection to the authentic voice of God, infinite love and wisdom and intelligence. They will lose that connection to Source, even if but for a moment. Even if but for months to years. And the longer one waits to go through this step, the more difficult it's going to become. So, one might be wondering, and remember, this is the person's own conception of God, and one might be wondering, who this other human being is or has to be. And that's the beautiful thing, is you get to choose. You get to have your own choice in that. In AA, it would have been sponsor. In Catholic Church, it's some like a Catholic priest. You know, it can be anybody. That's kind of the beautiful thing here, is it can be anybody. And that's kind of the cool thing about it. Now, I would recommend, wouldn't say caution, but discernment and being mindful of who you're telling your dirty secrets to. So, once again, going to the book of Alcoholics Anonymous for this one, right? On page 74. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority, whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, We may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics, and that's generally the case with almost any sort of issue that one carries with them mentally. Most people don't understand that perspective, which is kind of why it's important to find people of of a likewise mindset, which is why the group setting is rather important to an extent. Over reliance upon the group setting can be just as detrimental as avoiding the group setting entirely. Carrying on. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a close-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Now, in the previous step, one of the main roots of the problem is being inconsiderate of others, along with fear, dishonesty, and selfishness, which is why this is kind of drilling into the mind of the reader that we're supposed to be considerate of other people, of other individuals. We kind of have to be, because being inconsiderate it tends to be what gets us into these issues in the first place. Issues that we may have with other people, issues that we have with ourselves, issues that we have with friends, family, or even just issues in general, right? Kind of the point here in going over these steps is to be able to remove any sort of blocks one has within their own self, right? Their guilt, their shame, their remorse, their fears. We're trying to not necessarily completely remove those because they're still going to be experienced, but negate them in a way that they no longer hold the individual back. Because that's kind of the thing. That which holds you back is your religion. And so if fear and remorse and all these negative emotional memories are what's holding you back, then your religion is stuck in the past. You're stuck in the past, and that's what you need to get over. Let go. And when you do, you understand that your past is your greatest asset anyways. But point being, it doesn't have to be anyone in particular. You can find in your own circle of friends someone that you can talk about this to. But I'm going to jump ahead a paragraph. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory, and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So, when it comes to actually admitting this to another individual, a lot of the times it goes more smoothly than people might think. I mean, some of those things that we've kept secret for fear of being ridiculed by other people, when we discuss them with another individual, what ends up happening is that person that's sitting there listening is like, oh, hey, I've done that too. Like, okay, I've had people, when talking to them about how, I used to do things that I wasn't proud of, they would be like, oh, I've done that same thing, and I got over it. Here's how. Okay, great. And sometimes, well, the main point is just get over the fear of sharing your story with another person. A lot of people get caught up in, how they might lose some sort of opportunity or situation by sharing their story. And it doesn't mean that you have to just go out and blurt your story to everybody, but don't be afraid of sharing your story. And this is where discernment comes in. If you can identify a problem that someone is having that you've gotten over, then you're in a perfect opportunity to be of help to another person, especially if they're constantly and currently going through that issue, whatever it is. So, I mean, ultimately, this is helping the individual get set up to be able to help another person get over their issue. And in this case, the issue is they need relief from the alcoholic malady. Basically, they've programmed themselves in such a way that they're consistently or their consistent use of alcohol or abuse of alcohol has become problematic. And because it's problematic, it's causing them unnecessary pain and suffering. They're in a state of internal contradiction, right? And to get out of that, ultimately, what needs to happen is the person needs to return back to a place of integrity or oneness, wholeness. And that's basically the point, right? Getting back to a state of unity rather than disunity or duality. And so that's kind of the point of step 5. It's pretty simple, and yeah, talking about these things with another person, it can be rough the first couple times you try and go about it. Like if you did something wrong, like you stole from somebody that you cared about, 5 years ago, and it caused a big scene, and you made it all about them. Like being honest and bringing that forward and looking at your part in things and analyzing it and saying, okay, like I put the blame on this person, but ultimately at the core of the issue, here I was. When you do that, it relieves so much from you. It's like the whole weight of the world falls off your shoulders, and you can actually walk freely, even if just for a moment. And then I guess I'd like to read one more little spot. So after this step is completed, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything. To omit something is to leave it out. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man or woman at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6, which will be coming up tomorrow. Again, if you found your way to this video, but you did not watch the previous video, take the time to go back, spend the 42 minutes that the video takes up. I know it's 42 minutes, and I know that seems like a really rough thing in the modern age. I mean, even with myself, I have a hard time sitting and watching a 40-minute video at times. But if it's something that you find worth watching, just go and do it. If you say you want to do it, then do it. I don't know how else to say it. Just if doing this, the soul searching, the self searching is something that you want to get into and actually get into a way of life that ultimately betters yourself in understanding of yourself and understanding of other people, go back, watch step 4, please. All right, guys. Later.